everybody, and welcome to Profit Mission Control. This is Matt, and today I want to talk to you about the weekly recap for the week of February 13th, 2017. Last week I did not publish a video, didn't have time, but I decided to put one for the week of the 13th, although it's been a less active week compared to the week of February 6th, which was really a good week for us. I might go back and do a recap video for that week if I have time, but I wanted to focus on this video today on last week's performance. So we'll go over some of the trades, the winning trades, the losing trades, and talk to you about the overall performance of Profit Mission Control, some of the trending statistics, and then also go over stocks that are currently on the launch list or on the watch list that have not yet launched, as well as some of the stocks that have launched and are in flight. So some of those you might find interesting and decide to trade them, and if they're the right setups for you. So before I get started, again, just quickly, disclaimer, again, I'm an engineer. The information that I'm presenting here is only for educational purposes and informational purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not necessarily a broker, so if you want to get financial advice, please consult with somebody who is professional and understands that area very well and can provide you with the advice you need. So with that said, let's go quickly to our recap for the week. So last week we had a fairly active week. We had 15 stocks that have launched from various launch lists, as late as the oldest one I've had here was January 12th, which was Fuel, and we've talked about that a couple of weeks ago. It was one of those stocks that actually have launched and remain in a trading zone, in our profit zone, for a while, and then finally I took profit on the 14th from that specific stock. But anyway, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I want to go through the list and talk to you about some of the profits that we made. So overall, we had 15 stocks that were launched. 6 of them we had to abort, and 9 of them we actually made profits on. The highest profit being 33% on PSIX, which was a fantastic trade on the 16th. And then the lowest profit we had was 5% on HIMX. One thing I want to make sure you guys are aware of, so the profit taking accuracy has been dropping the last couple of weeks, and I'll show you a chart later. This is probably the lowest profit taking accuracy since I started tracking that back last year. And although I'm a little bit worried, that means there's something in the system that needs to be fine-tuned a little bit, which I'll spend some time trying to go over that personally, just myself. Yet I'm still in the zone that I wanted to be. So my profit target accuracy is really between 60 to 70%. That's, if I can hit that consistently, I'm good. And that's why I usually look at my profit to risk ratio. I want to make sure that's more than 100%, because even at 100%, if I slip down to 50% accuracy, I'm still going to be profitable. And I target profit to risk ratios, like I said, above 100, preferably between 100 and 150%, and anything above that I feel comfortable trading, as long as my accuracy does not continue to trend downwards. So if I start hitting the 50% range, then I'm going to definitely take a serious look at the strategies and the way I'm picking my stocks. Otherwise, I'm still not worried. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. So let's go over some of these stocks. The first one we'll talk about is PSIX. So that one is a little bit different than my typical selection criteria. So PSI, and the reason is PSIX has not necessarily broken any prior to the profit that we did on this stock. It had not broken any of the prior moving averages, for example. And I usually pick stocks that have cleared some kind of prior resistance or in a confirmed uptrend. PSIX, however, on the day before it went on our list, which was the 15th of February. So we put it on the 16th. On the 15th, it had actually triggered one of my intraday scanners, which is Alpha Predator, and that's one of the trade ideas scanners that I use, and it was showing unusual volume as well as accumulation. Let's see, go back here. So if I go on the 15-minute chart and look at the let me try to zoom in here a little bit more. So the day before it went on our list, it was firing up here on our Alpha Predator scanner, and what intrigued me about it is, going back to the daily chart, is the fact that this stock has been suffered some kind of major drop. Let me go back here. So that stock a few days ago actually suffered about a 62% drop in one day. Must have been some bad news. I didn't really spend time to go over what the cause of that drop was. But since it dropped 60%, it had a nice recovery the day after, and then it started trending back downwards, started to form this what we call kind of a cup and handle formation over the last few sessions. And then it got my attention, like I said, on the 15th, and looking at the prior resistance, I decided to put it on the watch list for the 16th because it was approaching a resistance level of this cup, and then it formed this handle, and then it was primed for a breakout. Now the breakout would probably challenge this prior resistance over here at 422, and that's why I really had my profit window here, which is this box here, starting to trigger at 385 with a profit at 420, which was this prior resistance. So what actually happened is that stock gapped up on the 16th, and so in fact pre-market no, sorry, there we go, here, yeah, it gapped up at open on the 16th. And so I said I typically don't trade anything, even if it was on my launch list that gapped open. I don't trade it unless it presents a proper intraday setup. And sometimes I'm so busy with my other stocks on the lynch that I usually don't even try to attempt to trade something that has gapped up significantly like that. So in this case, it did present a good setup because I was looking at the 5-minute chart, and although it cleared my entire profit taking target, it actually still provided a good opportunity around around the 454 level. It had made, its gap up, trended, it came down, and then usually you could trade the first 5-minute candle to make a new high, which would have been this candle. I decided for confirmation to make sure that it actually clears the resistance. So I said if it does hit 454, there were significant momentum, more activity on stock twits, and I took the trade at 454, and in fact it actually went up really, really quickly over the last 15 minutes and ended up taking profit at 603, which was somewhere around here. Yeah, around this point here. I took profit at 603. So that was a fantastic move. And again, this was one of those things where the launch list itself, I missed my entire window due to the gap up, but I ended up taking a good profit because of a proper intraday setup on the 5-minute chart. So next on the list is FUEL, and that one is the one we talked about a couple weeks ago. And let me go back to the 15-minute chart. So that one was one of those slower, took actually about 11 days in flight. It had triggered probably like 2 weeks ago. It had entered this zone here. Sorry, let me go back to the one day chart. There we go. So that was a classic trending up stock that showed up on my scanners. I put it on the watch list on this date, which was January, let's see, I thought it was January 12th. Yeah, sometimes when I move these, they tend to shift a little bit. Okay, so it was on our watch list on the 12th, and to trigger at the prior resistance over here, which was 229. And obviously you can see this was a classic cup and handle. Again, on the daily chart, we had a cut. It was on a downtrend. It started to recover. It actually had a double. Twice it tested this level here, and that's a perfect W pattern as well. It got my attention, a few days prior to putting on the launch list, because it was approaching, again, it was a confirmed uptrend here. It was approaching a prior resistance. This was kind of the resistance level. I said, if it breaks this resistance, it's continuing uptrending, it might test this resistance. So that was kind of my profit range here. And then it actually broke it. So it launched on February the 3rd, and it kept churning between my launch target and coming close to the abort target, but not so much. And then finally I managed to take profit on this one on the 14th. So on Valentine's Day, that was the profit taking day, and I actually exited a little bit higher than my zone here at 260, because on the 5-minute chart it was showing a good setup for continuation on that day. So fuel was a good stock. We extracted 14% profit on that, and this one tests your patience. So it had the proper setup. There was nothing that says, hey, I should exit the trade. I would say in hindsight, this 200-day moving average was kind of a resistance level that it was kind of butting against several days, and it kept holding underneath it. And I was very close to taking profit on that one, just because of the 200-day moving average. But however, it did break that resistance and continue to go higher. Now, as far as I can tell, this chart looks fairly healthy. It'll probably continue to consolidate sideways. It might continue to challenge this new resistance area at 269. So keep an eye on this stock if you are interested. Next one is OCUL. That one is a little bit on the more expensive side of things. Higher price stock. Again, the same classic formation for us. It came on my scanners because it was staging an uptrend. I looked at the chart, very nice chart in terms of clearing all the moving averages, the daily moving averages. So the 20, 50, 100, and 200. And I put it on the launch list for the 14th of February, again, because on the day before it was getting close to this prior resistance. So the natural thing says if it breaks this resistance level here, it might test all the way, the next resistance level, and that's where my target was to take profit at the 990 area or 989 with an abort price at 905. Which was the prior days kind of level here and here. So it was a good 171% profit to risk ratio, so why not take it? And it did launch on the 15th, so it launched this day here when it just passed this resistance, and we held it all the way through 1030, which was this level here, and took the profit on the 16th of February, so Thursday of last week. So very classic, perfect cup and handle. Well, not cup and handle, but trend reversal, and just basically going from one resistance level to the next resistance level. And it's a healthy chart because it has cleared all its daily moving averages, or the important ones at least, with accumulating volume or increasing volume. Next one, ZSAN. Now that one is a wild stock, and that one actually is an interesting stock because I've had that on my list, or I guess just on me personally watching it for the last few weeks, probably since the beginning of the year. It had stage one day, it showed up on an intraday scanner, and I noticed the weekly volume for that week was significantly higher since its IPO. So if I go to the weekly chart on this one, and I'll show you what I mean here. That this one on IPO last February, about a year ago, well, 2 years ago, and then it just continued to decline, and then suddenly, for whatever reason, it decided to. The volume was significantly high on this week here. Something wrong with this chart, because I had a chart where it showed the weekly volume prior to this week actually was one of the highest for since the IPO. But anyway, it was on my scan list because it had staged some significant moves the prior days. It was staging definitely an uptrend, and we had this triggering around $3.10. And if you notice, the last few days, it does a lot of wild swings. So I did enter at 310 and took a quick profit at 325. I think this stock is primed to go higher, unless there's a secondary offering coming out. I believe it's it probably continues to go higher. So keep your eye on it, especially if it breaks somewhere around this 340 to 350 level. I would say definitely above 355. There's potential for this to continue to go. And look at the volume. The volume speaks loud and clear that, hey, a lot of people are interested in buying this. PXWL, a nice slow riser that made a lot of sense to enter as well. It was on our launch list. Same thing again. It showed up on our scanners as trending upwards. It had cleared all our prior moving averages or daily moving averages. The next logical level to enter was this level here, which was a prior resistance, with an attempt to fill this gap at least through this level here. And that's why the profit targeting window was past 387 with a profit target at 415. And that's exactly that. I like it when it does exactly what we expect it to do. And it did break this resistance, continued to go. It took us through 4 or 5 sessions. Actually, according to my chart, about 8 days, which probably is 4 or 5 trading days, excluding the weekends, and took profit on the 15th at 7% profit. Very beautiful chart. Nothing tells me that this is a bad chart. You can continue to keep it on your watch list. It's probably going to have some churning to break through the next level at 456 and maybe 475. So keep it on your radar. ATRS is our next stock that has been. That's one of the since December of last year has been on our launch list, watch list. So it has not triggered. I put it on December. Again, same story. You're going to keep hearing and hearing. Hopefully, you're getting the pattern. Is that this is a stock that was in a confirmed uptrend based on all my scanners, clearing all the daily moving averages. I had put it on watch list on the December 27th with a target to launch above 244. And you could argue that on the 27th it did launch, but sometimes it's not with conviction. So it tapped this very, very quickly and came back down. So I said, it's still, I haven't really traded it. I didn't have time to trade that one. So it was still on the launch list until it confirmed, breaking of that resistance with conviction. And guess what? It took it all this time until it actually occurred on the 15th. So this one launched on February 15th, and a beautiful move. It did the entire move in one day. So we took profit on that one on the 15th for a 7% profit. And again, what's the exit level? It's a prior resistance. So if you go back all the way to the left of the chart, it's this level here. It was very clear to say, okay, this is where it's going to find some trouble, but the risk is low compared to the reward. And when I mean that, again, above 150%. So for ATRS, that one was 167% profit to risk ratio. So right there, you can see it there, 167. All right, Intelstat, or Intelsat, I'm sorry. That one, again, same story, uptrend, clearing all the resistances. Look at where's the logical breakout point or a launch target. And that would be this level here, and somehow, so this will break this prior resistance with some conviction. So that was the level I chose, and I told myself that this probably could go and test this level of resistance here, and that was my profit target. It took about 3 sessions to reach our target on Friday, so I exited on Friday at exactly 416 level, which is, I believe, what we targeted as a profit. So beautiful trade. Again, I think this might continue to go. It has a bunch of areas of resistance it's probably going to test. The uptrend is beautiful. It might correct a little bit or trend sideways, but you know, if it actually does challenge the 449 in a few sessions, which, let me put a line here. I mean, that resistance line is a very old, all the way back in 2015. It's a resistance from 2015. If it breaks that to $4.56, look at all our opportunity. There is at least an opportunity to the 517 level, maybe even higher. And it all depends obviously on the market and how it decides the overall market. If it continues to be bullish, I don't see why these stocks would have a problem getting to these prior resistance levels, which means, of course, opportunities for profit making. Next on the list was HIMX, and this stock was on our launch list for February 16th. It was very quick. This one triggered on pre-market, launch at $6.50 here. So let me go to the 15-minute chart. So actually this one we took, it opened, gapped up. So like I said, I don't take the gap up unless it shows a proper setup. So it gapped up, and within the first 15 minutes, let me go to the 5-minute chart. It dropped down, and guess where it landed? It landed at the launch target price. So I decided to enter then and took it because it was clearing a prior resistance. It was showing some bullishness that day. It kept holding that level, and within the same session, so that one, HIMX, let me just look at my chart again. I took that one all the way to 689, which was somewhere over here. Yep, this level here. So it was perfect, you know, exactly our launch target, hit our profit target. I squeezed up a little bit, took the 689 and added to our profit lists. Next stock was UUUU. And I believe that is a uranium play. I'm not 100% sure, but some of the uranium stocks have been doing pretty well the last few sessions. Again, this one was a no-brainer. It was showing a prior uptrend, cleared all the resistances on the daily moving averages, and we had a launch target. It came on our launch list for the January 25th, and the intent was to clear this prior resistance level here, which is a very obvious level at 258, and then it didn't. It kept holding. It did go through a downtrend, which is a perfect you know, kind of a cup and handle, with the handle forming over the last 10 or 8 sessions, and then it staged a new uptrend, and guess what it did? It broke through that resistance level and came close to hitting our full profit target. I looked at this one and on the 14th, and I took profit on the 14th. So it was just something when I saw this. Let me go back to the 15-minute, probably it makes it more clear. So this is a case where, you know, it doesn't go all the way to your profit target, but And there was, I think, multiple stocks during that day that were staging good strength, like UEC and I can't remember the second one, a uranium stock. They showed very strength early on the day, and then they started giving that back up. So I just exited at for that one I exited at 270, which was this level here. And I think I looked back at a prior resistance. That's probably why I decided to exit at that level, which is this red line here. I had initially put a target at 277, thinking that it could potentially break through this as well, and then try to test somewhere around this level here, this fire resistance. So, you know, in hindsight, I probably should have put it at 270, which would have made my profit to risk a little bit less than 238%. So if you go back to UUU, I had a 238%, so I could have been a little bit less aggressive on the profit, put my profit target at maybe the 270. Well, wait a minute. Again, this is another. I had my 277 was my initial profit target. I should have put it at 270. So that's where I actually took the profit. So, all right. Sorry, I'm just trying to go back and forth between the list and the chart. So next one was we start talking about the losers. So all of these were profit ones. The losers that we had to abort are some of the RTK. So RTK, again, this one, again, same theory, staging an uptrend, said if it broke this resistance over here, that was then it might have the potential to test this resistance, and that was kind of the plan. Unfortunately, it tapped the launch price a couple times, but then it sold off. So we had to exit that one with a loss, fairly small loss of 3%, which is, again, shows the importance of having a plan and a risk management plan. And again, so if I analyze this, why did this probably go wrong? I think a better entry should have been at this level here at 303, which really clears all this congestion and all this multiple levels of resistance. Sometimes I pick a stock saying that, hey, it's in an uptrend. It might decide to actually test the prior resistances before reaching really a major pivot point like here. And I think those are the ones that don't usually work the way that I expect them to work and are less, let's say, more risky. And I think there's several examples. So RTK is one of them. Let me go over ZFGN. That one, I think, where I was greedy on that one and decided and should have taken profit. But again, ZFGN has been kind of, it went on our launch list on the January 9th. And it's been kind of very choppy, almost touched it here, almost touched it there, our launch target, almost touched it there. And then it launched on this day, which was the 13th. Yeah, actually here, this is when I took the trade on the 13th. Although it's a very, very small, it briefly touched it and recovered back. I entered that trade that day. And then on the 14th, I had the opportunity to exit at 456, but I didn't. I thought it might continue to go higher since it broke, a major level of resistance. It's in a gap zone, and when it's a gap filling zone, you really don't know what's going to do. I usually put a 7% target if it's somewhere between 5 to 7% target if it's in a confirmed gap zone, as well as trending upwards. But in this case, it decided to consolidate, so it's still in a choppy region. I think you should keep it on your radar list. One of the things that, again, is very obvious is this 200-day moving average, and it failed to close above that moving average. So, and that's probably one of the reasons why I should have exited that day, but didn't. So anyway, lesson learned here is check your moving averages. So although it had cleared the 20, 50, and 100, it still was challenging the 200, although it was in a gap zone. And in fact, I would expect this to maybe as the 20-day moving average converges to the 200, there might be a point here where it actually breaks out finally and goes to fill more of this gap. So it's something to keep in watch. It might actually decide to collapse and go test its 50-day moving average. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's just worth watching this stock because of the opportunity here of this huge gap. So all right, enough said on this one. REPH, another stock that I had to abort. Again, this is one of the stocks where it really didn't clear a prior pivot, but it was an uptrend, and I put it on the list. So this one on the 6th, I put it for launch on the 7th. So that was the day I put it on the launch list, with a target to break this prior resistance here, and maybe it would continue over the next few sessions to challenge this level. So again, this is not a proper pivot point. So in hindsight, I would say this would probably be a good pivot point, the 854 level. If it breaks that, it can go here, although that's a small win profit. So probably this level here, 871, then it has a good chance to test anyone through this whole gap here. So in hindsight, again, it was a proper entry based on this level here. My philosophy or my strategy was it might go and test this level. That would be a good profit taking opportunity for, versus an abort here. So the profit to risk on REPH was 155%. So it's kind of on the lower side of things, and it didn't work out. So it kept holding the 200-day moving average. We had several chances to potentially take profit, and then I ended up having to exit on the 13th, which is this day here, because it hit our abort price and continued to go downward. So lesson learned there. GSV. GSV is another stock that we aborted, and again, it made sense to enter. It came on our list on the 30th, based on performance on the 29th. So if it broke this prior resistance level here, that would be a good entry for a potential profit target up to this pivot point here. Clearing this area. Obviously, it had some resistance on this level, which probably should have been a better call for me, but it did trigger, it did launch, and it kept trending upwards within the profit zone, did not take profit, and then I had to exit obviously on this date, which would be the February 9th, February 14th. Oh, I know that one. This one is the one I mentioned on StockTwits that it did drop below the abort price, but I re-entered. As soon as it came back to this abort price at 275. So there was a little bit of a loss here, but I re-entered here hoping that it would go back to where I wanted to go, but it failed. So I ended up taking a loss on that one. UEC was I think that's another uranium stock. Same story. That's the same story as the day I was talking about UUUU, and the fact that it did launch, but didn't necessarily follow through. I think whatever caused all that sector to fall that day caused this one to also go down. So took a loss on that one, 4% loss, aborted here. And then last one is NVAX. NVAX is one of those stocks that has a huge gap to fill. I'm sure they had some bad news on this day. It lost almost 70 to 80% of its value. It tried to stage a comeback, and then it continued to trend downwards. It was showing some opportunity here because it was about to clear a prior resistance, this level here, and I said, okay, this looks good. It has not really cleared any of the moving averages other than the 50 and the 100. It was looking attractive above the 16th of February, and for potential move to the 194. It briefly triggered here. I entered the trade at 190 at 174, but it dropped right away, so I had to exit at 167. So anyway, this is the recap for last week profit list or launch list. Overall, I want to talk about performance. So the portfolio is still healthy. We have grown up to 96,000 from a starting profit or starting account size of $25,000. Total trades so far are 94 trades, and if I look at my statistics on that one just quickly, there were 72 winning trades, 22 losing trades, and a total trades of 94 trades. The overall winning trades or accuracy is 76.6%, which is still very good. And one thing I added this week is this chart here to kind of show our weekly profit taking accuracy since October of last year, and it is trending downwards, especially the last few weeks. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm still okay. If it starts to continue to go downwards, then something needs to change in my strategy. I think I talked about some of the ones that I aborted, and for reasoning, some of the reasons why I think that might be just not the proper choice of the launch and launch targets. Sometimes I'm using more of a hope to say this might clear a prior resistance, although it's not a major pivot point. So I think it's better off to focus on more setups that show a breakout of the pivot point. The average weekly profit is showing fairly, I think we're trending. This was probably kind of an anomaly. I think this was right after the presidential elections. We had several good winning trades that week, which put our profit for that week around 30%. But I would say right now we're trending between 5 to 10%, which is not a bad place to be. Given that with the accuracy, there's certain something to just keep on my radar to understand a little bit better and do a better job picking some of these stocks. But overall, we're still, like I mentioned in our prior chart, we're still trending upwards. As you lose accuracy, what will happen is this line will flatten out a little bit, so you won't see acceleration of growth. So it's probably better to invest more time picking some of these launch lists and hoping that the pivot points are properly selected. All right, last couple of things I want to go over are the stocks that are waiting for launch. So we have a pretty large list of stocks. These are all still within play. They have not hit their trigger price yet. I'm not going to go through all of them. In fact, I don't want to go through any of them right now, but they're on the website. I would encourage you to go and check them out. The what I've done, sorry, let me go back here. I'll keep this list here on the video, and then I just wanted to show you the actual website. So on the website, I've added this active watch list, and what I've done this week is I've put two segments in that page. One of them is the currently in flight, which we'll talk about. So these are the stocks that have launched and currently in flight. And then I've also added an updated list for waiting for launch. So this is as of Friday, the 17th of February. So you can go and look at all these stocks on the chart, the same homework that we've done. It's not really that hard once you get into the habit of doing it. You go on a specific chart, and then you look for let's see, VCEL. So that one has been on our list since December 22nd, and it hasn't yet come to this area here. But guess what it's been doing? It's been staging an uptrend lately. It's close to it already crossed the $3 profit or $3 level, it has cleared all its prior daily moving averages. In fact, there might be an opportunity, although it's not really a true pivot point. So if you are willing to take a little bit more risk, there might be a window where you could take take a trade, maybe from this level here at 310 or 314, pushing towards testing this level, which is actually my original launch target. I'm gonna wait till it hits that launch target 339 and potential move to the 363 level. So, but what I was trying to tell you is, go on the chart, look at these setups, see which one makes sense to you. RVP is another one, for example. Again, this is waiting to launch above the 125 level with a target profit at 143. So somewhere where it challenges this huge gap here. It does not look very strong because it hasn't yet cleared some of these daily moving averages. But the fact that there is this huge gap presents an opportunity where it might actually try to test this prior resistance here and maybe even push forward further. So that's one of the things you keep watching. MC, I don't know. There's a bunch of stocks on that list. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I just wanted to show you the process so you can go and judge for yourself. Say, okay, does this pivot point, does this launch price make sense to me? Am I willing to take that risk? Is the risk to profit ratio looking healthy? So if you like any of those, please go and take a look at all of these stocks and choose the ones that you think are good setups. I'm going to continue to publish launch list over the next week. Probably my target is 2 to 4 per week. And I keep adding them to this waiting for launch. So I expect next week some of these will launch. Some of them might be winners and some of them might be losers. But nevertheless, the ones that are good setups certainly should be worth watching and taking profit on. The ones that have launched, we have actually about 6 of them, and a lot of them, 4 of them launched within the last 2 days, trading days. So the 16th and the 17th, we had VRS, CMRX, TRIL, SDLP, and MRTX. Those are all worth watching. I will caution you that, for example, MRTX as briefly touched the launch list. If you look at the 15-minute chart, so this tells a better story. It actually just tabbed the launch price at the end of the session, and so it opened at this level. It reached a hit. It hit that, and then it retraced down to the 625 level. So technically, it did launch. It launched with a lot of volume. That's why I took the trade. I'm still in it. I believe the next couple of days will tell whether it continues to break through and go into our profit zone, which is this level here, and that one is again established based on a very long resistance level over here. So let's see, that one, there's one level there and there's a bunch of them here, so that's actually closer to that one. Yeah, this is the level that I was expecting it to be profitable, and then an abort would be obviously around this level here, just based on the ratio, profit to risk ratio. So that's one of the ones I want to warn you about, that you might want to wait till it actually passes the launch target again versus taking it now. Same, I think there's a couple like that. SDLP. Again, this is one that hit our launch price but retraced again, so it's still sitting exactly at our launch price. You might want to wait till it does show conviction. TRIL, that one actually is pretty good. TRIL, it launched a couple of days ago and it's still kind of in the profit zone. I don't see why it can't go to at least the 703 level, which is this level here. and maybe challenging even which is my profit target around 730, 725 for TRIL. So again, it's within this profit zone. It has launched. I think it looks healthy. It still has to challenge the 200-day moving average and the 100-day moving average, but it still has some room to go. It isn't a confirmed uptrend, so you never know what it will do. Keep it on your watch list. And let's see what else worth mentioning here. CMRX, I believe that's the one that actually did touch briefly again. Oops, oh man, I hate it when I do that. Okay, there we go. It did touch briefly the launch target, and it's still within the kind of the lower end of the window. So I would be cautioned to enter until it does clear the launch list, launch price again, and it's going to go into this zone here, which is a very old pivot area here. So looks interesting. It has cleared all the average moving day averages, so I would say this is probably a stronger stock to enter, except that wait till it actually clears the launch price again. So with that, I think I want to end it here. Again, if you like the video, sorry that took me longer to go through these, but if you like the video, I would like you to maybe provide comments, give it a like, thumbs up, connect with me on any of these social channels. I'm very active on Stock Twits as much as I can. I'm trying to publish more videos over the next few sessions. And remember, Monday, tomorrow, the stock market is going to be closed on the February 20th because of President's Day, and we'll hopefully start making profit on Tuesday. I wish you all the best and take care.